Hi everyone, this is Liz with 143 Handmade, and I am here today to show you step one of how I make my covers. Or make the covers in this style anyways, because I make several different covers, but this is, if you like crumb quilting or crazy quilting or anything of that nature, you will like these covers. These will be a breeze for you. They are soft in the front, but they have a hard back. And this is just your standard office piece of paper folded in half, just to kind of show the scale of these covers. These covers will be available for sale in my eBay store, so check that link below if you're interested. From now on, I'll be switching all of my physical products to the eBay, and then as I have digital products, those will be on Etsy. So that's how this one fits. This one I was able to keep the original library pocket. You know, and as they're worn, you know, these will fray out some more, but that's kind of part of the joy of them. So, and this is just Sharpie marker on the denim. It works really nicely. One of the cool things about this is that if you're going to use these for just a regular sketchbook with this size paper in it, you could add a pen, you know, a pen clip of some sort right here on the end. If you purchase just the cover. Sometimes I put the covers up and then and then other times I will go ahead and make the whole journal. Can do both. So I really like adding this detail on the back because this hem gives you kind of something to hold on to. But so that's the examples. And this is the cover, the hardback I'm going to use. And I'm going to use it face up so that way the embossed little kitty, dancing kitty is shown, and this little sticker from the library that it was in. So how I go about creating these covers is the first step is I just get some pages, some book pages that you know, because I have way too many book pages and I need to use them up anyways. And I separate them out, you know, a handful, half dozen or so. And then I take one and I lay it up here at the top of my mat along with one of the lines. It doesn't really matter which line at this point, just a line along the front or along the top there. And then I'll take another book page and line it up all the way with the bottom down here. And then I take my book cover and I lay that on top, and I like to leave, you know, about a ½ inch gap all the way around. And then I will just scooch this paper in until it's, you know, right about the right size. This is not an exact science, people. It's not, you don't have to be perfect here. I'm just looking for a rough, you know, pattern. And this is just how I go about doing it. And I kind of hold that down with the one hand and move the book cover out of the way. And I'm just getting here with some glue stick. This is, this is just the super cheap school glue, you know, basic primary school glue. Because this is not going to be part of the existing book in the long run. And then I will decide, my glue's over here dripping. So I'm going to grab one of these sheets of paper and stick it under there. Then I'll decide, okay, how thick do I want to leave the spine? I like to leave an inch to an inch and a half, depending on how big the book is. And so what I'll do is I'll come over here to the ½ inch line with the paper running wild, but the book lining up with that ½ inch line. See? I've got the book cover still centered on these two pieces of paper. Not centered, but you know, with my rough outline here. That's the same all the way around. And move my glue out of the way so you can see. This reveal is about the same, about that 1/4 to a ½ inch. And I've got the spine of the book right at this ½ inch mark. And then I will pick up the book cover. I flip it over. See, this is the ½ inch mark I had it on. So if I want to do an inch spine, an inch wide spine, I will come over to this mark, but I'm going to go ahead and do the 1.5 inches. So that means, okay, I'm going to go ahead and scoop my whole mat. So you guys are definitely still in frame. And so this is the line I want to line up the inside of my cover with. and so I'll just lay down another piece of paper. It's not quite big enough, so I will go ahead and just do one of these maneuvers where it's just covered halfway to bridge the gap. Make sure I still have everything lined up by placing this cover back over here. Yep, I still have it roughly at that 1/2 inch mark. And then now I know that this was my 1 inch mark and that the edge of my mat is actually the other edge. So I can, in this case, set the cover aside, but you would just continue to do that, working back and forth with your cover, picking it up, setting it down, creating this paper. You can use as many book pages as you need. Don't worry about overlapping. Overlap them as much as you need to. This is not a finished product. This is just a rough-in. Just to give yourself a rough place to start. Okay, now those are together. I will go ahead and double check my measurements and everything with the cover in a second, but I'm going to line this up with the top line up there so I can see where this bottom should be. It should be right about in here. Okay. And just kind of tack that down, and because I am using just the super cheap school glue, it takes a while to dry, you know, so that gives me a little bit of a window of being able to finagle this if I don't get it in quite the right spot. And don't worry about that center in the middle. I will cover that up in just a second. So move this aside and lay my cover back on here. Make sure I've still got my good reveal, and again, remember, this is not an exact science. This is just my process of how I make very rough, rustic, you know, frayed, raw edge covers. This is not an exact science at all. Don't worry about measuring too precisely or getting everything too square. But as you can see, you can, you know, kind of tug on the papers and they'll break free of each other, and then you can, you know, resituate, lift something and relay it down if something's not right. Okay, so now I've got that roughly on that line, and it's roughly on this line, so now I'm going to come to this 1/2 inch mark, because it was here, so that gives me my 1.5 inches. And then I've got a little bit of a large reveal over here on this side. So I want to pull up this paper and that one and just scooch it in just a little bit, because it was just a little bit wider than I wanted it. And there we go. Lay it back down, line everything up again. And this part can be, you know, a little tedious. If you don't want to do this, don't. You know, you can just take a piece of paper, a big piece of paper, and cut it down to the size you need. Okay, so that's my 1/2 inch mark. My inch mark is over here. There we go. Okay, so now that I have that roughly, you know, how I want it, and this is a little swoopy down here, but instead of trying to straighten that out right now, what I will do is just I'll cut it with some scissors in a minute. But what I'm going to do is just lay this piece of paper under and tack it down, and then I'm just going to go ahead and lay another piece of paper right in the center on top. But this is just to cover up this little bit of glue. So, and that's just because I'm going to let this one sit for a minute. Actually, no, there's no reason to let it sit for a minute. Usually I do a lot of these all at once because I'll have a bunch of different covers. And so I'll do a bunch of this, just this step before moving on to the next step. That's why I got a little like, wait, what do I do next? Okay, So, but then what I do next is I just take my denim, kind of smooch some little something on it, so I'm gonna throw that aside. But I just take my denim pieces. This one I cut in a flower shape. This piece is already started, and then I just have a bunch of random pieces that I can draw from over here on the side. So, but then, yeah, all I do is I just take my pieces and I just lay them down on here and see if any of my established pieces will work for this journal. This one's a little bit on the big side, but it could work. Yeah, that could work just fine. I can just trim off this edge. It's a little swoopy anyways. So now this one was super easy because I already had this piece started. But you could totally do the same thing just by, you know, starting with strips or starting with whatever size pieces that you have. So let's see, I have this big piece that will just about do it, won't it? Let's see. And don't worry about right side or wrong side of your denim. You know, whichever side you like at the moment, that's the right side. That's like, for real, that's all there's to it. It's whatever you like. There are no rules here. No hard and fast rules. There are some suggestions I would like to make, and that is to make sure that you're overlapping by at least a generous 1/4 inch. I like to go a little bit closer to a 1/2 inch, generally speaking. So let's see, I think I like it down here. Let's see, I have another partial piece that I already started here with the weird little swoop on it. Okay, this is the right side. Let's see, that doesn't really fit, does it? Let's see, what if we put it down here? But this is just literally all I do, and I just keep auditioning the fabrics and moving them around until I find a way that I like them this time, you know. And sometimes I'll put things on top, you know, like this is under and then that's on top and then this is on top of that, you know. Or sometimes I like it, you know, don't forget to audition it with different layers, different layering, you know, because you may like it better. Yeah, because see, like this looks so much better with this piece under than it did with it on top. You know, I kind of wish this wasn't so matchy-matchy, but let's see, let's try this guy. Like I said, I have other strips over here on the side too, so I am in no danger of running out of scrap denim. And then you can also bring in other bits of I would suggest sticking with cotton unless you're a good sewist, an established sewist, and you know how to stabilize fabrics and things of that nature. And I still like to just add these like on top of the denim, not as their own piece. I've found that it just works better. So, but you can add, you know, pops of color if you want. I think on this one I'm going to stick to maybe just a little pop of color here to match, bring this purple thread around to the front. I don't know, I might not do that. We'll see. And then let's see, what if I stick this guy underneath like that. See, I kind of like the idea of sticking this on here somehow, but I'm not sure how. Nothing's jumping out at me saying, yeah, that's the way you should do it. If I tuck it in there, no. But yeah, this is all you do. You just play with your fabric until you find, you know, something you like. No, I just don't like it. But then all I do, and this one's going to be super easy because it's that piece is already put together, is I just take that same cheap white glue and just put a few little dots of it on the paper to hold the pieces down. And then I will just take this whole thing to my sewing machine and sew right through the paper. But see, you can see how I can do this assembly line style by creating a bunch of the patterns, you know, a bunch of the paper patterns, and then I'll go through and I'll just arrange the fabrics and then go sew them all at once. So I think this needs to be right about here. And I don't worry about the extra at this point. This is not the step I worry about that at. You know how it's overhanging the edge of the journal or edge of the paper there? It doesn't matter at this point. So there we go. Let's see, where do I want this guy? Because it's creating kind of a weird little nook right there. Let's see, maybe I just want to put... No, don't like it. Let's see, what if I just put this guy on top and cover up all of those edges? Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now that it's tacked down, make sure that there's glue on every piece. Usually I would, like I said, make a bunch of the paper pieces, and then I would piece together a bunch of these, and then come back later and sew them together. So this is step one, and we're going to go ahead and flip it over. You do want to kind of support it because the glue's on there, but you know, it is just kind of tacked on there. It's not like I laid down a good thick layer of glue. And you don't want to do that because you're not wanting to adhere this to it permanently. This is just to hold your pieces together, so because I really don't like pins. Like, for real, that's why I came up with this method, so I didn't have to pin my fabrics together. But then I'll just come in here and I'll do a rough cut and go, you know, not necessarily like right up to the paper, but you know, pretty close. I got left it a little bit wide on the bottom because I know I'm gonna have to straighten this edge out anyway, so you know, there we go. And then just carefully flip it back over. I might go ahead and add just a little touch of glue right here to keep that on top to remind me that that's where I want it. So yeah, I'll make a bunch of the papers, and then I do this, and then I take them all to like a whole stack to my sewing machine, and then I will do this essentially, and just stitch around, varying my stitches, varying which direction I go, you know, all of that stuff. But that'll be in episode 2. So thank you so much for joining me today, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and come back for the rest of the journal cover making process.